Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
The authorities necessary to do that. Let's hope that this new iteration of leadership will be successful.
In the discussions, it's simply about material, or is there discussion about it was previously testified that there was biologics that were collected. Are you aware of any of that?
I am, sir, aware of the reporting that biologics have been recovered. Again, my focus was more nuts and bolts, looking at the physical aspects of these phenomenon, how they interacted around military equities and nuclear equities. So I'm certainly not a medical expert. I would not be able to probably provide you a whole lot of value in that simply because I don't have the expertise.
But was anything described as that we have possession of bodies?
Yes, yes.
Is it multiple types of creatures, or?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. I can tell you anecdotally that it was discussed quite a bit when I was at the Pentagon. The problem is the supposed collection of these biological samples occurred before my time, in fact, before I was even born.
And was this part of the Lockheed Martin discussion, or was this the biologics is a completely separate?
Separate yet related.
Okay. Has anyone made contact?
Sir, I'm sorry, could you specify?
Has there been any, to your knowledge, any communication with a non-human life form?
So the term communication is a bit of a trick word because there's verbal communication like we're having now. The problem is you also have nonverbal communication. And so I would say definitively yes, but from a nonverbal meaning, when a Russian reconnaissance aircraft comes into U.S. airspace, we scramble 2 F-22s, and we are certainly communicating intent and capability. I think the same goes with this. We have these things that are being observed over controlled U.S. airspace, and they're not really doing a good job hiding themselves. They're making it pretty obvious they have the ability to even interfere with our nuclear equities and our nuclear readiness.
Is the United States government and our contractors, are they pulling technology from this? They're reverse engineering this?
Sir, as I previously stated, and please forgive me, I am not authorized to discuss specifics about crash retrievals. I signed documentation with the U.S. government. What I can say was, after a very thorough review process by the Pentagon, what I wrote about. And that was my limit, unfortunately, that I was given.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I would like to recognize Mr. Timmons for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elizondo, you just said something interesting. You said they don't seem to be hiding. They don't seem to be hiding. The UAP sightings are becoming increasingly brash, if you will. And, we've been hearing about these for years, but they've generally been isolated and not as consistent and over-critical military installations. Would you say that's fair? Is this becoming increasingly often? Is it happening more and more?
Great question, sir. Let me see if I can answer this for you. Certainly, there seems to be some indication that they're being provocative, meaning that they're, in some cases, literally splitting aircraft formations right down the middle. So that's an air safety issue. The question is it the frequency increasing? And really the response is it depends. Yes, it's possible that there is an increase in frequency, but it's also possible that there's heightened awareness now, and there's also more pervasiveness of technology out there that's collecting this information and that can record this information. So we're not quite sure yet if it's actually an increase in numbers of these events, or is it that we have better equipment now to record these things, and we have a better ability, if you will, to analyze these things.
And that's my next question. It seems that a lot of these sightings occur near military installations. Do you think that these UAPs are intentionally targeting military installations, or do you think that we have increased abilities to monitor surrounding the military installations?
Sir, maybe both. Part of my concern is we have something in the Department of Defense and the intelligence community called IPB, Initial Preparations of the Battle Space. And we use equities like ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, or other type of equities and technologies to prep the battle space. And certainly, if I was wearing my national security hat, even if there was a 2% chance that there was some sort of hostile intent here, that's 2% higher than we really can accept. And so we must figure out, there's a calculus, capabilities versus intent, in order to identify if something is a national security threat. We've seen some of the capabilities, yet we have no idea in the intent. And so this is why this discussion is somewhat, I think, problematic from a governmental perspective, because we have no idea.
Sure, thank you. Mr. Schellenberger, you're particularly familiar with the Langley Air Force Base incident a year ago? Are you familiar?
Just from what I read in the
Just
news.
from what you've read?
Yeah.
I would imagine a large percentage of the American population became aware of that with the Wall Street Journal article. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And were you aware of that incident prior to the Wall Street Journal article?
No.
To the rest of the panel, was the Wall Street Journal article the first time that y'all were made aware of what was essentially an over 2-week UAP frenzy over Langley Air Force Base? Were y'all aware of this prior to the Wall Street Journal article? Anybody? Show of hands. Yes,
sir.
Dr. Guyette, could you give me how did you become aware of it?
A colleague of mine who I referenced previously, Chris Mellon, he wrote an extensive article about this, that there were other incursions of drones over Langley before this, as well as many, many military installations over the last 5 decades.
And it's my understanding that there's been an ever-increasing in number, and I'm trying to think how to say this because I wear 2 different hats. I'm still in the Air Force. So, I mean, it seems that they're becoming increasingly brash, and the question that we really have to figure out is it China or is it non-human? And I think that's the biggest question the American people want to know. If it's China, it's scary because they have a lot of technology that we cannot explain. And if it's non-human, that's scary because we don't know the intent. Would you say that's fair?
Yes, Congressman. And in fact, I really believe that we should use this hearing as a catalyst to improve and bolster our air defense capabilities and our maritime domain awareness capabilities, because obviously there are holes in it, whether it be UAP of non-HI direction or NHI direction, or, like as you say, sir, China or any other adversary.
Are you all aware of any task force at the Pentagon or in the national security apparatus that's trying to assess the answer to that question?
At the current moment, sir, no, but this is a great point. From 2020 to 2022, there was a UAP task force in the DoD succeeding where Mr. Elizondo worked, led by Jay Stratton, who had the first comprehensive whole-of-government approach to UAP, which involved pathways to declassification and to increase transparency, as well as assessing the national security risks of UAP. This was a really well-established approach, and we have all advocated that something like it return.
I'm running out of time. The last thing is that we need authorities. The law enforcement, military do not have authorities to actually engage, and Congress needs to act to.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
Hey, we're How Ridiculous, 3 childhood friends and digital content creators that do epic stuff from Perth, Australia.
We've got about 50 million followers. We're in the billions of views, and we're a small team. We always felt like our content was all about entertainment and being fun, but there was also this, sort of professional business side. One of the things that we knew was basically essential was getting our own website, so people would actually see a proper official group who mean business and who can deliver. And we now get unbelievable opportunities to do things like film balloon popping races with Manchester City.
Let's just see how many lists we could get on here today. But Mr. Schellenberger, I wanted to ask you, I think I understand from this hearing that you would agree that classifying information like this is not in the best interest of the people. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, with the caveat that, of course, I would support classification necessary to protect secrets essential to national security, but I think it's pretty obvious that there's overclassification.
Overclassification, yes. And so in most instances, if they can't tell us what, do you think at some point they'll at least tell us why?
President-elect Trump has repeatedly committed to greater transparency, both on the UAP issue, on JFK files, on COVID origins, and many other things. So I think that we need to make sure that the next administration is held accountable for that.
Agreed. And this is for all 4 of you. Yes or no, please. I have many questions I want to get to. Are there any known instances of recovered materials or technologies that are not of human origin and maybe connected to any advanced bioscience defense programs within the USG?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to answer that, ma'am.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so there are rumors that have come up to the Hill of a secretive project within the Department of Defense involving the manipulation of human genetics with what is described as non-human genetic material, potentially for the enhancement of human capabilities, hybrids. Are any of you familiar with that? Yes or no?
No, ma'am.
I am not, ma'am.
I'm not.
No, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to know, with Immaculate Constellation, how does this relate to UAP activities, Mr. Schellenberg, in oceanic environments? Are there any instances where the Navy or other maritime forces have encountered UAPs that could not be explained by known technology or natural phenomena?
Yeah, the Immaculate Constellation covers both terrestrial and oceanic, and there's actually a number of cases described in the report that occur in the ocean.
And do you believe that there is a concerted effort by the Pentagon to keep Congress out of the loop regarding these UAP activities, specifically in our waters?
Yes.
I think it's about 5% of our ocean that's actually been studied in detail by man, and we've studied more of space than we had of our own oceans. And so are there any accounts of UAPs emerging from or submerging into our water which could indicate a base or presence beneath the ocean's surface?
I don't know about a base, but as I mentioned, I had a different source entirely describe this pretty extraordinary footage that exists of orbs, of an orb coming out of the ocean and being met by another orb.
Some would say that there's multiple hotspots where we see frequent activity. So in your investigations, have you come across any data or visual evidence like sonar readings or underwater footage of these UAPs?
I have not beyond what's in the report.
You've written about UAPs not only in the air but in underwater. Are there any specifics on what you've learned about the UAP activity in our oceans? Particularly, have you spoken with sources who have provided any evidence or eyewitness accounts of these UAPs interacting with our naval forces or being detected by our underwater surveillance systems?
Nothing beyond what's in the report and then the specific case that I mentioned with the orbs.
So this report says it all. There's no other information that we are aware of regarding the activity within our waters.
I have other sources that have told me that have shared a significant amount of information, but they're not comfortable with me sharing it at this point.
Okay. Are there any technological capabilities observed in these oceanic UAPs that seem to defy our current understanding of physics or our engineering capabilities?
It seems like they all do.
Yes, I would agree with that. My time is up, but I do appreciate your bravery, your courage for coming here and speaking today. And it seems like there's still some questions that we need answers to, and we will not relent until we get those to the American people. Thank you all.
Thank you. I move to allow myself and the ranking member 5 additional minutes for questions without objection, so ordered. Mr. Elizondo, were you read into the Immaculate Constellation program?
I would not be authorized to confirm nor deny the existence of any ongoing or past program, especially as it relates to a special access program, either by name or trigraph.
Okay, and then does the U.S. government or private contractors, do they work with other foreign countries, China, for example, to exchange data, quote from a source, that intelligence data about UAP?
Let me see if I can answer that a little bit more generally, ma'am, if I may. We do have foreign material exploitation programs. That is something that is widely known, and that term itself is unclassified. How exactly that works becomes a bit sensitive. A discussion we could certainly have in a closed session if you like. We do work with international partners and allies quite often, not just in military exercises and workups, but in other intelligence efforts as well.
In terms of material that's given to private contractors, is certain material given to certain contractors because of their experience? So, for example, if it's related to submerged and undersea propulsion, would it go to a general contractor like General Dynamics?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely correct. Different contractors have different levels of expertise.
What's Lockheed's expertise?
Aerospace, ma'am.
In the UAP space, that's all that they wouldn't do submerged.
No, I didn't say that, ma'am.
Okay.
Lockheed Martin and others do quite a bit of work both in our atmosphere, in space, and even underwater. There are certain efforts to. It's a tough question you're asking. You put me on the spot here.
I'm looking for the answer.
Yes, ma'am. No, they are involved in a lot. I would rather let Lockheed Martin explain the different domains that they are involved with. Probably am not authorized to discuss that, but they are involved in a lot of different areas and domains.
Admiral, flight safety risks for our pilots, based on what you've experienced and seen in your career.
They're extensive, and the one exercise I referred to where I received the email that was then deleted was the pilots, and this is worth bringing out. There are debunkers out there who have said the Go Fast video was just a balloon. That was only one video that was released. There were dozens of these encounters that pilots, friends of Ryan Graves, who's in this room right here, witnessed and caused significant safety concerns. And to almost call out and exercise it and shut it down, which is very compressed, and the carrier's getting ready for deployment, and the pilots have to get certified to land on a carrier, it's extreme, to say the least.
All right, I have two last questions. Real quickly, Mr. Schellenberger, how do we get more whistleblowers to come forward?
Well, this hearing is very important, and obviously, I can't encourage whistleblowers to obtain information, but I can guarantee that I will protect them and go to prison to protect their identities if they come to me.
Yes, sir. Okay, my last question. The first hearing we had on this, I'd never been briefed on UAPs or what they were, biologics, non-human, et cetera. How would you define, each of you, my last question, how would you define non-human biologics, non-human intelligence? What are we actually talking about? Admiral, and we'll go down the line.
I don't think it's a stretch when you look at the diversity of life on this planet and the size of this universe to think that there would be more diverse, higher order, non-human intelligences throughout the universe, and that's probably what's visiting us.
I would take the scientific approach. The definition would be the ability to react to a stimulus in a manner that requires an intellectual thought process.
I just don't know.
I think we must be modest in our assumptions that we're looking for intelligence. That could be biological, it might not.
Non-biological, but what non-biological intelligence, what does that mean, though?
Artificial intelligence, ML, machines. We assume that all intelligence would be like us, and every time we look out in the universe, we are humbled relative to what we don't know in terms of the forms of intelligence and what it may take. I can assure you I probably can't ask you your question, but I think the ultimate answer is going to surprise us all.
And then Mr. Garcia, you had a few closing remarks.
I know we're about to hit votes here, so I'll be brief. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Chairwoman Mace especially for holding this important bipartisan hearing. And I want to thank all the committee members that are interested in this topic. I think our commitment to all of you and all the folks that have contacted us, and certainly to the advocates and the pilots, is that we need to continue investigating UAPs. I think the country the country is owed explanations and ensure that the safety or national security is always protected. This is a conversation and questioning that must continue, so I'm very grateful to all of you. And I also just want to add, just personally, I think it's really important for me, two things guide my questioning and my observations on UAPs. One is we should always be guided by facts, science, and data, and stay serious on those issues. And the second thing is I think that we should not limit our imagination and our thoughts and our curiosity on what UAPs could actually be. And I think those two things for me are really important, and I'm grateful for all of you to be here. So with that, I yield back.
Okay, and we have Mr. Ogles, who is on the way. He's going to be here any second. Is that correct? Want to check, and he'll be the last member with questions that we have today, and then we have votes. So we want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Mr. Garcia and folks on both sides of the aisle for being here today and being patient. We have a lot more questions, and I hope that this will open the door to more hearings in the future. I obviously would like to know how much taxpayers are spending on this. You have the right to know, But also, if we're spending money on something that doesn't exist, why are we spending the money? And if it doesn't, if it does exist, why are we hiding it from the public? And of course, our national security is a huge issue, because if there's technology that could harm us or our allies that are in the hands of our adversaries, we obviously want to stay ahead of that to the best of our ability to ensure that that technology is not in the hands of someone who could use it against us or our allies anywhere in the world.
1,000 times 2? Nice. There we go. All right, let's open up. Are we going to get to 2064 again? Holy crap. This is huge. Wow. Oh my gosh. 8,464. Wow.
Well, thank you all for being here. And
tonight, you've heard the testimony about a secret government program to retrieve and reverse engineer UFOs.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes. News Nation was the first to bring you this story.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
And now, for the first time anywhere, a military veteran comes forward to say he was part of that program, with video to prove it.
My work has included the recovery of downed UAP of non-human origin.
Revealing how he retrieved alien craft.
What did you see?
I saw an egg.
How it changed his life forever.
What we call a psionic component to the research and development of the UAP program.
And how he plans to do it again for the world to see.
The skies are not classified. Your conscience can't be redacted.
His account, corroborated by his colleagues, and his injuries sustained during these operations, confirmed by a Stanford professor.
My personal experience is that there's something here.
Will the truth set him free, or will it get him killed?
People have been murdered.
That seems to be the case.
News Nation presents Hunting UFOs, the Crash Retrieval Whistleblower. In October 2024, an unknown man stepped out of the shadows, arriving in our nation's capital to deliver an important message about what the public calls UFOs, and the government calls unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs.
I'm here in D.C. this week to meet with members of Congress.
His name is Jacob Barber, and he says that for the past 30 years he's worked in both an official and unofficial capacity for the United States government and its partners in the intelligence community. What he knows and what he's here to tell Congress could change the world as we know it.
We're in this rare opportunity in human history where it's very clear that we know that there are things flying in the sky that are unexplained and ununderstood. And that's another one of the things that I'm uniquely providing information on.
So what makes this guy special? Well, to date, everyone who's come forward has either described their own UAP encounter, like this famed 2015 incident recorded by F-16 aviators on the USS Roosevelt.
I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I'm here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me.
Others have alleged that there's a secret government UAP program that's been going on for decades. People like David Grush and Lou Elizondo. They say they've been told about it. They believe it exists, but they weren't a part of it themselves.
We've been recovering spacecraft. Alien spacecraft.
The United States has been involved in the recovery of objects, vehicles of unknown origin that are neither from our country or any other foreign country that we're aware of.
But Mr. Barber is different. He says that for years he was part of that covert program, working with alien spacecraft.
These days we call them NHI, non-human intelligence. And this guy is prepared to testify that he was involved directly, firsthand, in the retrieval of these craft. How long have you known this secret about unidentified, anomalous phenomena being of non-human origin?
For more than 10 years.
Of course, we checked Barber's records, and we've confirmed that he was an airman in the US Air Force, working as an aerospace mechanic in the late 90s. But as these documents show, he was also recruited into Air Force Special Operations, known as Combat Control. He says he ended up working in a non-official capacity for the Department of Defense and the intelligence community.
What were you?
What was I? Ross, I was a highly talented airplane mechanic who got to deploy on a number of presidential support missions.
But Jake was no ordinary mechanic. Being recruited into the Air Force's elite combat control unit meant he had a resume that reads like something out of an action thriller. Helicopter pilot, free-fall parachutist, expert marksman, and the recipient of a NATO top-secret security clearance, a legacy of his service in Bosnia, where he won an award for an act of heroism. In addition to reviewing his official documentation, NewsNation spoke with 3 former Special Operations soldiers who corroborate Barber's credentials and claims.
I know in Special Operations you're often in some tough situations. You have to rely on each other. Is Jake Barber a person who you would trust?
Oh yes, he's a person I would and have trusted with my life.
Do you think Jake Barber is a patriot?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's a thing I know a lot of special operators talk about, that there are certain types of men who you would want watching your back in a tight spot. Is he one of those guys?
Absolutely. Trustworthiness is one of the top things that we're looking for.
And one of his most fervent supporters is Colonel John Blitch, a Renaissance warrior who holds a doctorate in psychology, was a Delta Force sniper, and is one of the few men to hold doomsday in his hands, commanding a nuclear weapons battalion.
So you believe Jake Barber is telling the truth?
Absolutely.
There has been a cover-up lasting 80 years.
Absolutely.
We've recovered craft.
Absolutely.
So let's roll back. You say you were an enlisted man, and then you ended up working for the intelligence community as a contractor. Tell me that story. How did that happen?
Everything changed for me right around 9/11. And I left the Air Force and was sent out to California at that time to begin establishing my cover basis for an independent contractor, so that I could serve what was coming down the line next for me. And that is the path which led to the UAP subject.
Barber says he was contracted as a helicopter pilot and was part of a team assigned to retrieve crashed aircraft at an undisclosed testing facility in the desert. And we're not only talking about conventional airplanes or drones.
A lot of the work we did was on what I call the range, where the U.S. government and its private partners use to test all kinds of things, weapon systems and resilience to weapon systems of certain craft. And so you see a lot of exciting things.
So you start seeing at the range,
yes,
interesting objects.
Well, yeah, it's always interesting out there. Things come in and out of sight. Things disappear for a moment and reappear. Things seem to move very quickly. Things change color, they change shape. We did recover things that were exotic in nature in the sky, and we know they were classified craft. And we recovered them and took them back to where they go. The majority of what we see and do is explainable and is ordinary and is known by many people and is not classified. But there is a certain percentage which is extremely sensitive, and that extremely sensitive bit does include what we know is our own man-made advanced technology.
So you know what Louis Elizondo has described as the 5 observables. So you were seeing objects that complied with those weird observables.
Yes. So one of those that would raise your eyebrow is more of the transmedium characteristics, because things would come from the ground, like from the earth, from a ridge, from a mountain, or it could pass through.
So they'd come out of a ridge?
Out of a ridge, yeah.
Aircraft that can disappear, change colour, change shape? How might the US military have developed or acquired such technology? Jake says he saw for himself close up.
In the rare occasion, or let's say the hypothetical occasion, something of a non-human origin or source were to interface with the ground, you would deploy that same team. And that is the segue in how we got involved with this particular subject.
Next, Jake Barber's first encounter with non-human intelligence.
How close did you get?
I got within 150 feet of this object.
And later, News Nation has acquired video evidence of Jake's claims. It has to be seen to be believed.
We are not alone.
We are not alone.
There's no doubt Jake Barber is an accomplished helicopter pilot. This is the kind of work Barber says he did after he left the Air Force as a private contractor, working for the defence industry and the US government at a secret location he calls the Range. That's where Barber and his team were asked to retrieve downed craft, the likes of which he says were not just advanced tech the public has never seen. They were built by non-human intelligence.
So tell me about the moment when you realised that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
And it was pure white?
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
What do you think that object was?
I don't know. Again, I'm security and transportation. I moved it, loaded it on a truck, and it went to...
Where would it go? Where would it be taken?
It would be taken to a secure facility, but again, my role stops once I deliver it.
Yes, it sounds like the stuff of madness, tall tales, delusions. And anyway, where was the proof for any of this? News Nation has independently obtained previously unseen video obtained from a secret UAP craft retrieval program. This extraordinary footage clearly shows an egg-shaped object dangling in a sling below the belly of a helicopter. Let's slow this down to take a closer look. That's an egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long, the egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP ever taken. This is no blurry light in a distant sky. The source of the footage putting themselves at incredible risk to record this UAP retrieval. Look at how perfectly smooth the craft is. No markings at all, and no visible means of propulsion or way to see inside. Watch how it rolls, almost graceful as it hits the ground, despite being wrapped in the ropes and canvas from the cradle as it's dropped for pickup. The UAP's final destination still unknown.
So there was another object. There's two objects that I'm here to talk about. One was the egg, the other is what we called an 8-gon. The 8-gon was essentially a flying disc with what looked like 8 delineated sections when looking down. And I can tell you what it looked like from looking down because that's primarily how I saw it, because I'm a helicopter pilot. We did recoveries with the 8-gons. There was more than one that made its way. Yes. So one of those that would raise your eyebrow is more of the transmedium characteristics, because things would come from the ground, like from the earth, from a ridge, from a mountain, or could pass through.
So they'd come out of a ridge?
Out of a ridge, yeah.
Aircraft that can disappear, change colour, change shape? How might the US military have developed or acquired such technology? Jake says he saw for himself close up.
In the rare occasion, or let's say the hypothetical occasion, something of non-human origin or source were to interface with the ground, you would deploy that same team. And that is the segue in how we got involved with this particular subject.
Next, Jake Barber's first encounter with non-human intelligence. How close did you get?
I got within 150 feet of this object.
And later, News Nation has acquired video evidence of Jake's claims. It has to be seen to be believed. We are not alone.
We are not alone.
There's no doubt Jake Barber is an accomplished helicopter pilot. This is the kind of work Barber says he did after he left the Air Force as a private contractor, working for the defence industry and the US government at a secret location he calls the Range. That's where Barber and his team were asked to retrieve downed craft, the likes of which he says were not just advanced tech the public has never seen. They were built by non-human intelligence.
So tell me about the moment when you realized that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
And it was pure white.
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process, over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
What do you think that object was?
I don't know. Again, I'm security and transportation. I moved it, loaded it on a truck, and it went to...
Where would it go? Where would it be taken?
It would be taken to a secure facility, but again, my role stops once I deliver it.
Yes, it sounds like the stuff of madness, tall tales, delusions. And anyway, where was the proof for any of this? NewsNation has independently obtained previously unseen video obtained from a secret UAP craft retrieval program. This extraordinary footage clearly shows an egg-shaped object dangling in a sling below the belly of a helicopter. Let's slow this down to take a closer look. That's an egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP ever taken. This is no blurry light in a distant sky. The source of the footage putting themselves at incredible risk to record this UAP retrieval. Look at how perfectly smooth the craft is. No markings at all, and no visible means of propulsion or way to see inside. Watch how it rolls, almost graceful as it hits the ground, despite being wrapped in the ropes and canvas from the cradle as it's dropped for pickup. The UAP's final destination still unknown.
So there was another object. There's two objects that I'm here to talk about. One was the egg, the other is what we called an 8-gon. The 8-gon was essentially a flying disc with what looked like 8 delineated sections when looking down. And I can tell you what it looked like from looking down because that's primarily how I saw it, because I'm a helicopter pilot. We did recoveries with the 8-gons. There was more than one that made its way to the ground on this particular operation.
Simply seeing a non-human craft up close would be an intense experience in itself. But Barber says as he prepared to transport that so-called 8-gon from the pickup site to the drop site, something even more intense happened to him that would change his life forever.
This is one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life I'm about to share with you, so bear with me. So as I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song. And it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night. And I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. I'm like, am I just stressed? Am I tired? And I don't know.
The source, you know that retrieval. There's no doubt Jake Barber is an accomplished helicopter pilot. This is the kind of work Barber says he did after he left the Air Force as a private contractor, working for the defence industry and the US government at a secret location he calls the Range. That's where Barber and his team were asked to retrieve downed craft, the likes of which he says were not just advanced tech the public has never seen. They were built by non-human intelligence. So tell me about the moment when you realised that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot, and I operate with 150 foot to 200 foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine, there was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up, so I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How large was the object?
I would say approximately 20 feet, plus or minus a little bit, about the size of a large SUV.
Did it have any seams?
No.
And it was pure white?
It was like pearly white, like a metallic pearly white, the best I could assess.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process, over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact an HI, and it was not a unique experience.
What do you think that object was?
I don't know. Again, I'm security and transportation. I moved it, loaded it on a truck, and it went to...
Where would it go? Where would it be taken?
It would be taken to a secure facility, but again, my role stops once I deliver it.
Yes, it sounds like the stuff of madness, tall tales, delusions. And anyway, where was the proof for any of this? NewsNation has independently obtained previously unseen video obtained from a secret UAP craft retrieval program. This extraordinary footage clearly shows an egg-shaped object dangling in a sling below the belly of a helicopter. Let's slow this down to take a closer look. That's an egg-shaped UAP suspended from a 150-foot long line. We're told the craft is about 20 feet long. The egg suspended in a cradle. And look how careful the pilot is as they bring their precious cargo into land. Let's freeze frame here to look at one of the clearest images of a UAP ever taken. This is no blurry light in a distant sky. The source of the footage putting themselves at incredible risk to record this UAP retrieval. Look at how perfectly smooth the craft is. No markings at all, and no visible means of propulsion or way to see inside. Watch how it rolls, almost graceful as it hits the ground, despite being wrapped in the ropes and canvas from the cradle as it's dropped for pickup. The UAP's final destination still unknown.
So there was another object. There's two objects that I'm here to talk about. One was the egg, the other is what we called an 8-gon. The 8-gon was essentially a flying disc with what looked like 8 delineated sections when looking down. And I can tell you what it looked like from looking down, because that's primarily how I saw it, because I'm a helicopter pilot. We did recoveries with the 8 GONs. There was more than one that made its way to the ground on this particular operation.
Simply seeing a non-human craft up close would be an intense experience in itself. But Barber says as he prepared to transport that so-called 8 GON from the pickup site to the drop site, something even more intense happened to him that would change his life forever.
This is one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life I'm about to share with you, so bear with me. So as I get closer to this pick site, I start feeling odd. I start feeling extremely emotional. And the closer I get, the more the emotion starts to overwhelm me. I feel this intense hybrid of sadness and happiness and beauty and song, and it was very disruptive to me because I had a very practical responsibility at the time to operate a helicopter in the mountains at night, and I began wondering what was wrong with me. It was late. Am I just stressed? Am I tired? And I don't know. But as I came over this object for the pick, it was this overwhelming sense of emotion.
Is it your feeling? Are you suddenly having a mental breakdown on the job?
No, I felt like something connected with me. I felt like something had tuned in to me and my soul and was providing me some sense of guidance on what to do and how profound what I was doing was. And it was so overwhelming that I began to cry. And then I'm confused as to why I'm crying at the same time. And then do I abort the mission? So I just did my best to focus on my particular cues when doing this type of work, and I got the load hooked up and I began flying away. And once it was just me and that object in between the pick and the drop site, there's about 20 miles in between, I felt like something was inside of me. I felt like I was possessed by the most beautiful spirit I'd ever been possessed by. And
was it loving?
It was loving. But there was a sense of sadness at the same time. And
had you ever had an experience like this before?
No, it was a very feminine energy, I'll tell you that. It felt like the spirit of God, but not in any masculine sense. And it wasn't like a soul, it was like a frequency that I was connected with. And whatever that force was since that night, it has stayed with me. And as crazy as this sounds, it's what's guiding me now. And it's what's providing protection for me.
It's changed your life.
It's changed my life.
Wait a second. Humans bonding psychically and emotionally with non-human intelligence? Yes, Jake Barber says that's exactly what happened to him. And he's not the only one. And he says the government knows all about it.
There is a psychic component to the research and development of the UAP program.
Do psychics walk among us? Stay with us. Jake Barber says that when he retrieved a so-called 8 GON shaped UAP, he had an intense emotional reaction, which convinced him he'd connected telepathically with a non-human intelligence.
You're talking UFOs, flying saucers, and...
That's probably one of the hardest conversations. That object, or whatever was controlling that object, was also connecting to me through my mind.
And so, how did the object come to land?
I think it was invited to land by the psionics team.
Jake says his mission that night came from no accidental crash. The UAP was summoned by a separate team, a special team with special abilities. They're called psionics.
What is a psionic?
A psionic person is someone with a predisposition for extratemporal, you could say, abilities and sensitivities.
Extratemporal abilities, also known as psychic powers. What did you discover the psionics were being used for in the program?
In the program, there was certainly a desire to explore the idea that perhaps UAP could be summoned, could be communicated with, could be controlled, and could be persuaded to land, all by deploying people with psionic abilities.
And did you see that happen?
Yes, I did.
When a psionic operator engages with technology, how do they do it?
Using their mind, something like meditation.
There genuinely are people who can actually make a mental, spiritual connection to a technology.
Yes, 100%.
It all seems so far-fetched, psychically gifted humans linking with possibly alien ships, summoning them and even piloting them. But it isn't just Jake saying this. Don Paul, another decorated Special Forces operator and colleague of Jake's, says he's also seen what psionics can do.
I've had the pleasure of meeting multiple psionic assets. I've seen them function. I know that they're capable of doing what they're doing.
You can definitively say that you believe there is a capacity in the human mind to somehow psychically, telepathically connect.
Yes, and I don't know if it's a byproduct, if it's something that they were born with, but there is certain people who are quantifiably, verifiably capable of this.
It's an established fact that the Pentagon has had an interest in psychic abilities, what it calls remote viewing, for military purposes. The famed Project Stargate spent years studying the subject, and despite the CIA's official position that such studies yielded nothing, former Pentagon UAP investigator Lou Elizondo told me last year that psychic abilities are very real, and perhaps not very rare. So this is an ontological shock, I think, for many people watching this, because we're all being told, firstly, there's no such thing as aliens visiting this planet, and secondly, there's no such thing as telepathy or psychic abilities. It's rubbish.
Yeah, you know, I don't think there is going to be an ontological shock. I think it's going to be an ontological relief, because I think everyone deep down knows that there's more to life than what we are being told and experiencing. Like, not only is it not shocking, but it should be welcome.
It all seems so innocent, so benign, even sacred. But hold on. Jake says that through his work, he and his team have suffered serious injuries.
After this particular mission, me and everyone on my team got extremely sick.
How sick?
Like physically ill in the hospital.
And one of the world's leading medical experts agrees.
My personal experience, both with people and the things that I've seen, is that there's something here.
Are UAPs bad for your health? Coming up next. What do you think the NHI want?
The NHI, I feel the NHI are guiding us.
Jake Barber describes his encounters with UAP as transcendent, quasi-religious moments. And from what you're saying, that's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it was the most beautiful experience I've had in my life.
But he also says these encounters could come with a staggering cost. UAPs may have changed his life for the better. They may also have shortened it. So what happened to you?
We're not quite sure. We were transporting a large sealed container.
Jake says nobody on his team was told what was in that container.
And we transported what we called mystery boxes all the time. I have no idea. It could have been empty. It probably wasn't empty, but we don't know what was inside the boxes.
And what were you told if somebody tried to seize that box? What were your orders?
We maintained the authority to use lethal force if anyone tried to seize those boxes.
So whatever that box was, it was extremely valuable to the US government.
That's correct. And after this particular mission, me and everyone on my team got extremely sick, like physically ill in the hospital. Within, weeks after this, I lost every hair on my body, and I also lost the skin on my arms.
So the skin's actually falling off your body?
Yeah, like not just falling off, like it was lopping off within a couple of days, like a severe sunburn. I ended up developing a severe heart murmur that I'd never had before.
Last year, I introduced Jake to Stanford immunology professor Gary Nolan. He's been studying anomalous injuries among US military personnel for years at the behest of the CIA. Nolan agreed to review decades of Jake's medical records.
The report reads like a bit of a horror show, to be quite honest. To me, what the first thing that came to mind was you were exposed to some kind of radiation. And especially, as I understand it, a number of his co-workers in the deployments that he was in had similar problems. So you're not dealing with a one-off who went home and somehow came in contact with something in the house, but you have 4 or 5 individuals all at once coming down with the same thing within a week or so after deployment. That's more than a coincidence.
My fear is that there's something permanently broken that might show up in the form of cancer or God knows what later in life, and we're going to be way behind in trying to figure out how to deal with it.
Assuming Jake and his team were exposed to radiation emanating from that box, could it have come from one of the many radioactive materials used regularly by the military? Certain munitions, components of nuclear vessels, or nuclear weapons themselves? Jake doesn't think so.
If the Air Force, let's say, knew that what we were working with that night had any type of radiological signature, there's a whole set of process that we're trained in on how to deal with that from a hazmat perspective and a containment perspective. And the fact that none of that was apparent that night tells me they didn't know what was in the box, and it got turned on or turned off, which leads me to believe, in hindsight all these years, that it may have been something of non-human origin.
Speculation? Absolutely. Wild speculation? Perhaps not, when you consider other documented cases of military personnel who claim they were similarly injured by UAP. Take the famous case of Airman John Burroughs. The Veterans Administration granted him full medical disability for injuries to his heart and eyes he claims he suffered during the famous 1980 UAP incident in Rendlesham Forest, England. But that only happened after Senator John McCain intervened to get his medical records declassified.
They were classified, they just weren't withheld, they were classified. Why would you feel that the issue was so important as to not allow for that person's medical records to be released? What are you hiding?
The issue came up in last year's congressional UAP hearings.
How can the government deny we have recovered craft if they're paying people because they've been injured by recovered craft?
Ma'am, that's a great question. That's why I think we're here again, because I've seen the documentation by the U.S. government for several of these individuals who have sustained injuries as a result of a UAP incident.
What did happen sounds either unethical or an administrative oversight that needs investigation by Congress, because we shouldn't be putting people like this under such circumstances.
The good news is that now, under Dr. Nolan's care, Jake is getting proper evaluation and treatment. The bad news is Jake believes there's another, more imminent threat to his health: his former employer.
People have been murdered.
That seems to be the case.
Stay with us. It wasn't just the United States government interested in using Jake's expertise working with UAPs and psionics. His skills were also needed by private companies involved in the top-secret program, and his assignments soon took a turn from recovering UAPs to something more sinister.
What happened?
Well, we were deployed on a particular task to recover what we call HVTs, or high-value targets. Those high-value targets were Panasonic Toughbooks. The sensitive material that is on these Panasonic Toughbooks has to do with sensor data.
Jake and his team suspect those Panasonic Tough Books contained data from the top secret UAP retrieval operations, worth millions to the right buyer. Jake says the private company contracting him was determined to recover them.
We recovered our first 2 Tough Books. They were in the high Sierras. We got back to our base location and then went through them and took photographs, discovered that the hard drives were missing.
Jake says his team arrived too late. The hard drives containing the data had already been taken, and it became clear to Jake that not all was what it seemed as his team set out to recover the missing data.
The next piece of intelligence that came through led us to a lake, a high altitude lake, and we found the hard drives in a sealed steel container 25 feet underwater.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
someone's going through a lot of effort in order to hide these things.
Hidden, but by whom? What began as a straightforward recovery mission proved to be anything but simple, and Jake says things soon took a nefarious turn.
At any stage, did you find yourself under threat?
The very next time we went out, things got strange for me, and my spidey senses, my intuition was on high alert because our intel contact changed, the rhythm and style of our intel changed. As we got closer to the day in which we were going to deploy, intelligence kept changing. And so that raised my concern. We ended up going anyway, and when we got there, the HVTs were gone, and it was clear that shots had been fired.
Shots fired? Whatever was on the computers was a secret so important it was worth fighting for. The situation had changed, and soon Jake says he realized his team was caught in the middle, and their lives were on the line.
You were in significant danger.
Yeah, and I was concerned that we were being set up, we were being prepared for the one thing that we've always offered employers, and that is plausible deniability. And that we were perhaps going to be the hidden hand that gets severed.
Don Paul, a Special Forces veteran, was working on Jake's team at the time.
Were you involved in any of the retrieval attempts?
Yes.
Was there a concern that you were being set up, potentially?
Yes. Setup is a mild term. The fact that people have lost their lives involved in this type of activity, and the lengths to which people have gone to suppress politically uncomfortable truths is such that there is risk involved.
Do you think that, without naming them, the private aerospace company that retained you decided to kill you?
Somebody masquerading as a representative of that company surely may have had that intention.
Jake was convinced his former employer, or someone posing as them, was determined to kill him. But who exactly was calling the shots? Jake was determined to find out.
Who were you working for?
It was obvious to us at least who the employer was, but they were now in question, in my mind, as being part of the problem.
Jake was on the hunt, using his skills and vast network of contacts to determine just who was behind this shadow war fought over these missing hard drives. And he says the trail led him right to the top. This past spring, Jake and his team were in Washington, D.C., conducting surveillance and eventually confronting one of their prime suspects.
So I reached out to the director of security for the particular organization and set up a meeting with them, because there was only two truths in my mind. Either they were complicit or they were compromised.
What was his reaction? Was he nervous?
Oh, he was nervous.
And so he told you to forget it?
He said, you know, it's in our best interest to move on. If he had any knowledge at all, it was clear he's trying to distance himself from it.
Jake was no closer to finding out who exactly wanted him dead. But he knew that he was no longer doing the mission he signed up for when he first enlisted, protecting Americans. To make it stop, he would need more than his hand-picked team. He would need Congress, he would need funding, he would need to go public. And he would need us at News Nation to reveal our own startling UAP footage. That's next. Jake Barber says it's now time for the public to know. That's why he's doing this interview. But he's doing much more than talking.
And what you're trying to do now is replicate in the private sphere what's being suppressed in the public sphere.
Yeah, you know, we're not looking back. We're looking forward. I am absolutely confident that we are capable of generating the type of high quality sensor data and photography and film evidence that everyone is wanting.
So who exactly is we?
Our organization is called Skywatcher. We have been recruiting guys from within the program and women and are forming a new team in coordination with government agencies. And we also have the funding through venture capital.
Can you name those agencies?
Not at this time, but I hope to very soon.
Jake's Skywatcher team has already deployed on behalf of the US government to investigate last year's drone sightings on the East Coast. But before that, they were on the hunt for something even more elusive. In August of 2024, Jake and the Skywatcher team conducted their own operation with a psionic asset to see if they could summon a UAP themselves.
Look, there's two. Look at this, look at this, look right here. Look at this one going down and this one going up.
This footage from another Skywatcher operation showing the team's protocols. The team hoped to quietly gather evidence for Skywatcher, but instead found themselves in danger once more, and Jake says a UAP dogfight erupted in the sky above them. He believes the craft summoned by the team was warring with a rogue UAP piloted by an unknown entity attempting to intercept Skywatcher's operation.
Tell me what happened.
So we set out to do this operation. Right away when the psionic asset went into meditation, he is reporting that he is engaged and in fact piloting a craft and is bringing it in.
So he's actually telepathically controlling alien technology?
Yes, yes. As crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what we set out to do, what he reported we would do. And then things got a little weird. Right about I'd say 4 or 5 minutes into the operation, he goes, something's going on, something's wrong, get me out of here. And right about that time, our Overwatch Fred looked up to the sky and saw a disc, a classic lenticular shaped disc.
That was Fred Baker, Special Operations veteran, now part of the Skywatcher team.
So he was flying the egg.
And then when we had to pull him out of this, that's when the egg dropped.
Wow, so at the very moment that he's essentially detaching his mind from the object, you see it fall.
Correct.
Professor Gary Nolan was there that night too.
What I did see was an individual who, in the midst of attempting to call such an object, it was clear that he was in distress at the moment of the supposed interaction. And at that moment, something is seen. When we reviewed what it was that the person on the roof had seen, both by drawing and by videography, something showed up.
Can we see the egg?
Yeah. So here's frame one. It passed across our entire 69-degree angle of view in 0.84 seconds on our sensor. It comes into frame here.
So that one there does look like just an upright oval egg.
Oval egg.
And is that similar to what you've seen in the program?
Oh yeah. This is exactly the same thing.
Aside from releasing data and footage like this to the public, we're told this video was among those sent to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, the Pentagon organisation responsible for monitoring UAPs. The egg resembles the UAP encountered by US Navy fighters off the east coast of the US in 2015, suggesting a connection between these anomalous objects. But until now, it's never been shown to the public, making Jake's mission even more critical. The Skywatcher team feels it has to push the federal government to act. Witnesses at the congressional UAP hearings have been saying the same thing.
The Pentagon, the intelligence community is treating us like children. It's time for us to know the truth about this. I think that we can handle it.
Jake Barber has been to Capitol Hill too. NewsNation has confirmed that this fall he met with staffers for Florida Senator Marco Rubio, now President-elect Trump's pick for Secretary of State.
I feel I was able to fill in gaps that have been there for a long time that no other whistleblower has been able to do.
A lot of people aren't going to believe this. What do you say to those people?
I'm not here to make anyone believe anything. It's exhausting. I'll paraphrase the book of Matthew. You will know us by our fruits. Stay tuned in and watch what our new project is about to do, and prepare to be dazzled.
We are finished. Humans are using Riverside to make podcasts that are way more engaging than
Just let me cut to the quick though. You're saying the...
Tonight, for the first time, a former senior military intelligence officer comes forward to say what we've only imagined is true.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
Claims that our government has proof of alien life.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number. Some are landed, some are crashed.
Allegations of a secret government program that has hidden the truth, the technology, from the world.
There's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral, and it's totally frightening.
From Roswell to the present day.
We're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
There are non-prosaic cases, 100% unexplainable. I mean, this is like tangible technical craft they're seeing.
Is this decorated officer a liar?
Why should we believe you?
A fool?
Is it possible that you're deluding yourself?
Or a hero?
I'm a patriot, and I believe the truth to power in this.
We're talking about the biggest secret in human history.
We are not alone. The UFO whistleblower speaks. Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, here to bring you a News Nation exclusive interview with a man we're calling the UFO whistleblower. David Grush is a career intelligence official who this week is making some bombshell claims of a U.S. government cover-up going back nearly a century. Shedding light, he says, on that existential question. Are we alone? News Nation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume. We have not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. But we want you to hear his story so you can decide for yourself. Mr. Grush sat down with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who is reporting for News Nation. Mr. Coulthart is an award-winning journalist and author who has reported for the Australian version of 60 Minutes, as well as other news programs in his home country. What you're about to see is part of their conversation, touching on Mr. Grush's work with the UAP task force, his background and his service to this country, and the alleged secret military program about which he says the world needs to know.
For decades, the UFO question has been consigned to the realm of speculation, conspiracy theory, and science fiction. But in recent years, serious people have started taking the subject seriously.
You'll see it come through the top of the screen. There it goes.
Prompted in part by the release of these videos, purporting to show encounters between American naval aviators and what the Pentagon has labelled unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena. Congress has convened hearings to determine what these UAP are and what threat they might pose.
If UAP do indeed represent a potential threat to our security, then the capabilities, systems, processes, and sources we use to observe, record, study, or analyze these phenomena need to be classified at appropriate levels.
The Department of Defense has established a special team, formerly known as the UAP Task Force, recently renamed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARRO, to investigate and identify what are now hundreds of reported sightings. So far, they have not confirmed any of them to constitute proof of alien life. Officially, the government continues to state, we are indeed alone. But now, for the first time, a former member of that official investigative team is speaking out, telling a stunning story that impacts every person on this planet. And now you're about to meet that man for the very first time in this exclusive television interview. Welcome. Have a seat. Maybe start off telling me your name and who you are.
My name is David Grush. You know, I came from a blue-collar family in Pittsburgh. I didn't have the money for college. Always admired people in uniform. And I've always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. You know, 18 years ago, I got an Air Force scholarship for physics. I originally commissioned on active duty in the Air Force. Served 14 years in the Air Force.
I look at this photograph, Dave, and I see a very proud officer.
I was getting promoted to captain when I was deployed.
And you still love your country, don't you?
Absolutely.
A career intelligence officer, Grush spent time on the ground in Afghanistan and other places he can't mention, before rotating back to Washington.
I was an intel officer for the U.S. for 14 years. My last position, which I left in April of 2023, I co-led the UAP portfolio for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and some of the highest officials within the Department of Defense and intelligence community used to call on me to advise them on some of the hardest target sets that the country had.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
And he says the most earth-shattering of those secrets were revealed after 2019, when he was invited to join the UAP task force. You had the security classifications to go anywhere and ask anyone anything.
I had, based on my formal security clearance and multiple polygraphs, I had the ability to be read into any program that I needed. At one point in time, I was extremely highly cleared.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
You are alleging that the US government has been concealing the existence on this planet of alien life.
I would couch it as non-human intelligence, NHI, like we would like to say in our language.
Why do you say that? Why do you say NHI?
I don't want to necessarily denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location, and I couch it as somebody who studied physics where maybe they're coming from a different physical dimension as described in quantum mechanics. We know there's extra dimensions due to high energy particle collisions, etc., and there's a theoretical framework to explain that. Yeah.
Just let me cut to the quick though. You're saying there is an intelligent species engaging with this planet?
Yes, that's potentially extraterrestrial, yeah.
I speak for everybody sitting at home. That is a shock.
It was to me, and I had a lot of sleepless nights.
Grush says he's never personally seen non-human intelligence, but he's spoken to enough people directly involved in what he calls the program that he's convinced it's real.
I started out as a non-believer. I came to the problem as a hardcore physics guy, intel officer, so I have a, excuse my language, high factor. I was very methodical, interviewing people who didn't know each other, making sure this wasn't some kind of cover-up of some other program.
He says he pressed to gain direct access to this program, and that's when his trouble started. Grush claims his investigation was stymied, his requests for access rebuffed.
They shut the door in my face. They denied me access to these programs.
Soon after, he says, he endured reprisals and retaliation from above. He then reported that information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. That's why he's filed this whistleblower complaint. He says that experience is why he decided to go public here and in a recent article written by Leslie Kane in The Debrief.
You're not being paid for this interview?
No, I'm not.
Why are you doing this?
It's a sense of service, Call me a Boy Scout or whatever. When I saw the kind of wrongdoing I did, I don't want to be 60, 70 years old in the future and have that, coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of feeling where I could have made a difference. I did not want to live a life of regret.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
You've said that the United States has spacecraft, intact craft.
We do.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Have you seen spacecraft?
I've seen some interesting photos and I've read some very interesting reports.
But he says the specific documents and photos that would prove his claims are still classified, and he cannot disclose them here.
Let's deal with the issue of your credibility. Why should we believe you? You're just somebody coming out of nowhere, making claims that we really ultimately can't prove.
Yeah. Well, we provided the proof internally to the Inspector General and the Hill staff, and we went into all the details. I mean, I have the credentials. I was an intelligence officer on the UAP task force.
But let's face it, allegations of aliens and their spacecraft are hard to accept, even coming from a respected insider. Even if you call them NHI and UAP, how could such NHI travel to Earth in the first place and go undetected by the general public? Grush says the craft may not be travelling through space as we understand it.
It is a well-established fact, at least mathematically and based on empirical observation and analysis, that there most likely are physical additional spatial dimensions. You could imagine in 4 and 5D space where what we experience as linear time ends up being a physical dimension in higher dimensional space, where if you were living there, you could translate across what we perceive as a linear flow. So there is a possibility that, and this is a theory here, I'm not saying this is 100% the case, but it could be that this is not necessarily extraterrestrial, and it's actually coming from a higher dimensional physical space that might be co-located, right here.
What can you tell me about these craft, these technologies? Why do you know it's exotic?
Based on the very specific properties that I was briefed on, isotopic ratios that would have to be engineered for it to be at those levels, but also just extremely strange, heavy atomic metal, high up in the periodic table arrangements that we don't understand, what the emergent properties are, but there's just a very strange mix of elements.
So you're absolutely sure that the materials that these craft are made of are clearly not of this earth?
Yeah, they're sophisticatedly engineered, certainly not by humans.
And while Grush says the US has gleaned some insight from these materials for military use, so much more could be done if academia and the private sector had access.
It's totally nuts that humanity as a whole, especially the US citizenry as a whole, they're not even benefiting from broad research on this to solve propulsion, energy issues, novel material science that can improve people's quality of life. It's just totally nuts how it's been protected and inhibits progress.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the US populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
Coming up, how long has this been going on?
A lot of the things I was briefed on were very shocking.
I started noticing hair loss here.
I didn't want to go bald.
I needed to do something. The HIMSS process was super easy. I spoke to a provider. They gave me a prescription specific to my hair loss.
You wake up, you put your HIMSS in, you're out the door.
And then it grew. I didn't expect so much hair to come back.
Finding HIMSS changed my life. Start today at hims.com.
So let's start from the very beginning. You say it's a 90-year cover-up.
Just about, yeah.
90 years?
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
It's long been known that the regime of dictator Benito Mussolini documented numerous UAP during this time. This internal memo from the Italian Secret Services includes crude drawings of the UAPs.
It's true, it's real.
Yeah, that actually happened. The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945, and the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
Grush says shortly after the dawn of the atomic age, another major crash recovery took place. You've probably heard of it.
What can you tell me about the Roswell craft?
Fortunately, those details were not approved for me to talk about right now.
This much we know. In 1947, an object crashed in the New Mexico desert near the town of Roswell. The Air Force recovered material described as metallic and rubbery, though the government changed its story as to what it was, calling it a flying disc at first, then a weather or spy balloon.
It just read ridiculous to me that the US Air Force had changed its story.
Yeah, and they added additional elements over time and tried to conflate additional programs to explain some of the events.
Why are these things crashing?
Yeah, some are landed, some are crashed, and I think that's an interesting discussion that's come up, as advanced as, we are, as humans, right? Planes crash, cars crash. Just because you're some advanced sentience that has advanced technology doesn't mean some small percentage of your, I'll use the Air Force term like sorties, meet an unfortunate operational conclusion, as we might want to say.
Most people would tell you the Roswell incident has been thoroughly debunked. In fact, the Air Force published this report in 1994 to put the issue to rest once and for all. Grush has read it.
That analysis they did was a total hack job. And even anybody with analytical skills, if you read it, you can deduce that they're conflating multiple situations with crash test dummies and mogul balloons, and they're just saying that the townsfolk who personally witnessed it were totally imagining things. They concocted that whole report just to disinform.
So the reason for the secrecy exactly is what?
Feudalistic dominance, who can have both asymmetric technology for, it seems like, just fueling the war machine.
Grush says that through the 50s and 60s, encounters with the NHI continued, as did the cover-up. One incident in 1967, about which multiple Air Force veterans have gone public, involved UAPs tampering with the nuclear missiles at Malmstrom Air Base in Montana.
They saw a craft, appearing to be intelligently controlled, hovered over a nuclear weapons silo and shut down 10 nuclear ICBM missiles.
It certainly looks like they want to understand how far we've advanced in our nuclear fizzle kind of technologies at the very least. I mean, it looks like preparatory probing activity. It might be innocent kind of scientific gathering, could be ISR probing.
Meanwhile, Grush says the crash retrieval program continued. And while he won't reveal where the downed craft are stored, he does say that the people working with the technology have been putting themselves at risk.
A lot of them, were injured looking at some of this stuff. You can imagine the nuclear, radiological, and biological risk to looking at an unknown unknown. And a lot of them have literally suffered physically because of their service.
But as we know, anyone who's come forward claiming non-human intelligence is behind these incidents has been dismissed as delusional or deliberately deceitful.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
Coming up,
It's 120 miles to the west.
new evidence and perhaps new attitudes in a new age of UAPs.
The American people need and deserve to know more.
Has the US government changed its tune?
If you want to build an app and have no idea how to code or where to start, check out Base 44. I built this daily habit tracker that helps users log small wins, track their mood, reflect on past entries, and see how far they've come. It's fully functional, and I didn't write a single line of code. You start by describing your idea, what you want it to do, the features, the look and feel. Now watch Base do its magic, designing the interface, building the database, wiring the logic. It's like asking a team of engineers, designers, and product managers to create your vision instantly. Once you have your first version, you just keep going. I add dark mode, polish the transitions, and make sure it works smoothly across devices. The best part? I can just stay in flow. No blockers, no switching tools, just building. So start with your idea. Base 44 does the rest.
These are the videos that started it all. Footage captured by naval aviators on military-grade cameras that defied all prosaic explanation. Dave Grush has investigated this one, shot in 2015 off the East Coast by fighter pilots from the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
There's an industry of debunkers out there on the web who say, oh, they've got this all wrong, it's a jet exhaust at a distance, and the aircraft's turning. Give me an answer on that.
Well, I had some optical engineering experts look at that, and the Raytheon AT FLIR system, based on the pixel saturation and apparent size. It's certainly something that's not a jet. It might be some kind of natural phenomenon that's quite strange, but it's not as simple as a jet.
He has even stronger opinions about this UAP, now known to history as the Tic Tac, shot in 2004 in the Pacific by aviators off the USS Nimitz.
And the Tic Tac?
Truly anomalous, absolutely technical vehicle, physical, and that's absolutely something that we didn't make.
Not of this world.
Most likely, yeah.
The videos were leaked in 2017, then officially released by the Pentagon in 2020. At the time, it seemed the Pentagon may have finally abandoned its obsession with secrecy and decided to do what other countries have been doing for decades: establish a properly funded, publicly accountable team to investigate reports of UAP. Dave Grush was part of that team.
This is a hunt mission for what might somebody be doing in our backyard that we don't know about.
The task force set about investigating these incidents, including more recent events like the odd encounters that took place during naval exercises in 2019 off the coast of San Diego. This video, shot on the USS Omaha and later leaked to documentarian Jeremy Corbell, has received particular attention.
It either zooms off so fast you can't see it, or it sinks into the ocean, but it seems to drop. What do you know about it?
It was truly anomalous.
But Grush says the promised new age of government transparency is a fallacy. For starters, he says the videos that have been released are just the tip of the iceberg.
There are many videos that are totally fair to release through a declassification process. And I find it very concerning from a transparency perspective that all that the department has declassified were those 3 famous videos. There are more concerning videos that left me with a lot of questions, yeah.
He says there are credible witnesses who could testify to Congress about spacecraft, big spacecraft.
A lot of them were very large, yeah. Like a football field kind of size. And I remember interviewing these personnel. I'm like, either these people are lying to me, they're having a psychotic break, or this is some crazy but true stuff that's happening, and I have no good explanation that's prosaic at all for this, because